Friday afternoon, and John Call and I are here to present our final recap from the 2011-2012 legislative session. The Senate sine died yesterday after passing a tax bill, a revised tax bill, and the stadium bill, and the day before the House sine died after doing the same thing. The governor has vetoed that tax bill as it has deficit spending, and he has said that he will not take deficit spending into the next biennium, as there is already a deficit coming forward in 2013. Some of the bills that he did sign into law, and I will just kind of list them for you. House File 1770, the Teacher's Basic Skills Test. House File 1585, the Interscholastic Conference Membership State High School League Arrangements Requirement Exception. House File 0392, the School Bus Arm Requirement. House File 0300, the eye exam notification for parents before children go into preschool. House File 2376, the School Fund Equipment Food Service Purchase Approval Process is simplified. House File 1524, the Substitute Teacher Continuing Education requirements are clarified. Senate File 1917 of the prone restraint for students is extended for 1 year. In the meantime, they will be looking for a more humane way to treat students who cannot be restrained in any other way. House File 2506, the changes to staff development. It eliminates the methods, the statutory methods for distribution, so that it is up to the school districts then on how to distribute those funds. And in that same bill, the CPR mandate is there, the only mandate I believe that they passed this year. It says that students from 7th to 12th grade must be given one class of CPR, and if they transfer in and haven't had the class, you don't have to provide it for them. House File 2949, which was the second education omnibus bill. That bill contained our fund balance extension to 2015. It also repealed the statute for the cities of the first class for the debt levy. And it also has individualized learning in it and PSEO, and it allows school boards to dismiss teachers who are accused of a felony immediately once they are found guilty. It also includes a special account to be set aside for military differential pay for teachers that are in the military, and if there's any money left over in that account after they have paid the differential, you can use that to pay the substitute teachers. Senate File 0946 is the pilot project to share resources and innovation. School districts can do that now, but this certainly clarifies that process. And Senate File 1528, especially for Senator Nelson, is the online learning bill, which he did sign into law, and defines online learning and other issues dealing with that, and clarifies and develops a task force that has to report back to the legislature. The bills that were vetoed was the first omnibus education bill, House File 2083, which did have the shift payback in it. House File 1870, which is last in, first out. Senate File 1658, the legislative approval for state academic standards and graduation requirements. House File 0203, the legislative approval for rulemaking. Senate File 2183, prohibiting the Commissioner of Education from enforcing unadopted rules. And there was a lot of discussion on those three bills, saying that the legislature should have the final say on what goes into rules before they actually have the power of law. And the governor did veto all three of those. One other thing that will affect our school districts are the changes to the GASB accounting rules regarding unfunded pension liability. The changes to TRA and to the service credit calculation will take place on July 1st. These will have quite an impact on all of our school districts, and there's federal implications to those also.
John Call here. There's an old saying in the legislature, where you stand depends on where you sit. And as we look at what happened in this legislature, some people are going to feel it was a pretty good legislature, and some people are going to feel it isn't, depending on what your priorities were. If you were keen on the stadium and you wanted a bonding bill, you probably feel it was an all right session. If you're concerned about other priorities, maybe it wasn't so hot of a session. As far as the Rochester School District is concerned, we had two objectives, major objectives. One had to do with some flexibility and local control over fund balances. I think we made substantial progress against a strong headwind on that. And the other issue that came up at the last minute was the issue of levy authority for cities of the first class, school districts operating in cities of the first class, and we were able to get that done. So I think we can feel good about that. It's also important now that the session is over to think about the future. And I would point out that if you were to look at the election from November of 2010, and you were to look at who's in the legislature after the election in 2012, we're going to see a 60% turnover in the makeup of the legislature. With such a turnover, there's a loss of a great deal of institutional memory, and there's also a lot of hazards involved in going into a session where there's been that much turnover. There's also opportunities depending on who gets reelected and who doesn't. So we need to think about that. And if you don't think about the future, you cannot have one. And I think as we look at the election and a major changeover in the legislature, the board should begin to look at its legislative objectives much earlier this year than they have in previous years, because you do want those issues to be part of the legislative campaign. You want candidates talking about them. You want to put them on the agenda of the legislature early, especially with a major funding year coming up and all the opportunities and hazards that are inherent in that, including the future status of our integration aid. This will be our last official report to you by video, where we would look forward to an opportunity to come down and meet with the board in person at a future board meeting to go into what happened this session in much more detail and to talk about the opportunities that lie ahead.
At this point in time, that's about all that we have for education. It's been a very interesting year, up and down, and it's been our pleasure to serve you and keep in touch with you each week. We look forward to talking to you again in the future. Thank you.
I'd like to sign off by thanking the board for working with capital gains this last session, and look forward to guiding you through the next several months through the next election, and then we'll see what happens in 2013. Thank you very much.